Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. So it's been a while since I made my last video for this YouTube channel, and I was like, maybe today is the great time to make my new video for this YouTube channel. As I have already told you before, I have a primary YouTube channel regarding teaching English, and this is, by the way, what caused me to make this video. As I have already told you before, I live in Russia, in Moscow, and for my primary YouTube channel, which is about teaching English, I went outside just a couple of times asking people about their English knowledge. You know, I went to city center, I went to some places, and this is actually one of the reasons what made me to make this kind of video. You know, when it comes to learning English, when it comes to learning new words, when it comes to basically comparing people's levels, etc., there is one particular thing which always triggers me and which always makes me, I wouldn't say angry, but which is a pretty debatable and pretty controversial. What I'm saying is that actually I don't know what the situation is in, let's say, other communities. For example, people living in Italy, people living in France, in Germany, also who learn English. In Russia, I would tell you that when it comes to people, you know, beginners, you know, maybe B1 level, even like B2 level, there is a concept, there is a whole notion, I would even say the tendency. There are lots of people advocating for the idea that you, for some reason, you have to use extremely complicated words, like C1, C2 words, lots of idioms, phrasal verbs in every single sentence, of course, idioms, you know, without idioms, your sentences make absolutely no sense. And it always makes me funny because, you know, I've watched lots of, if not thousands of, or even, I don't know, millions of interviews. I've spoken to native speakers a lot. I've taught lots of people, and you know, as I said, it always really bothers me because I don't know, you know, as I told you, I went outside lots of times and I asked people about their English. You know, I would tell you that the percentage of people speaking English, at least at a level of A2, is like 5 or maximum 10%. 10%, can you just imagine? But once I publish my video, there are lots of comments, you know, but people saying like, oh my gosh, your English is like pretty low. You know, people living in this place, people living or in another place, they speak a lot better. And I always wonder, you know, where are these people? Where are these people? Because, again, I have already gone outside asking people. I've made already 6 videos with survey asking people about some questions, you know, grammar questions, all these things. And for some reason, there are no such people like here in these comments. The point of this video, guys, is that when it comes to difficult, complicated words, when it comes to trying to make your sentences as complicated as possible, to try to wrap them up in some coverage of, you know, complicated structures, sophisticated words, etc., what you have to understand is that English and Russian are the same languages in terms of their usage. You don't learn English for the sake of doing something that you do not do in your mother tongue. Because, yeah, people always want to, you know, compare themselves to other people, and if they see some mistakes or if they see the usage of some pretty simple words, they usually like, you know, why you don't use other words, you know, which are considered to be C1 or C2. Always try to make the same comparison with your mother tongue. In my case, really, like, rarely do I use complicated vocabulary, complicated word structures in my daily life. Because in this case, if I were to use them, probably I would, you know, I would come across as some, you know, some weirdo or something. Because actually, if you exist, if you live in your daily routine with just ordinary people, you are not a professor, you're not some, you don't conduct some lectures at university, you're just pretty ordinary guy in terms of the language you use. There is no absolutely point. There is no absolutely point. But I will tell you one pretty important thing. When it comes to slang, when it comes to some jargons, when it comes to some, tricky words, which are, in my opinion, which can only be learned while being in this, communities and environment. I would say foreign environments and communities. Of course, when it comes to them, for non-native speakers, it's pretty difficult to comprehend them, to learn them. What I usually say about that is that it's a tricky one, it's like I wouldn't say it's a double-edged sword, but it's a pretty tricky one, because again, I'm going to repeat this, if you're not native speaker, it will be sort of like tricky to observe these cultural nuances, you know what I'm saying? Because even in Russia, even in the Russian language, we have lots of words which you sometimes cannot even explain. You just pronounce them, you just use them, you just apply them, but their usage are pretty subtle, It's not something that can be learned through some textbooks or some materials. It's some, kind of like unspoken words or unexplainable rules, you know what I'm saying? The same exists in English, and of course, when it comes to comparing even people having C1 level, or even, I would even say even C2 level, in some cases proficiency level, even for these people, there would be lots of words, there would be lots of structures, which they are not familiar with. That's the main point, and I guess it really depends. It really depends, and again, if you're a person who learns, English or any other foreign languages, and for some reason you want to integrate or incorporate as many complicated words as possible into your conversation, just keep this in mind, that not only does it not make any sense, but you just, first of all, you demotivate yourself. Second of all, I would say you postpone your progress, because instead of improving the way you speak, instead of training your listening comprehension, make you more confident, I would say breaking all these speaking barriers, because this is, by the way, this is the primary reason, this is the primary obstacle of most beginners not being able to speak. They all have the speaking barriers, which should be broken actually as quickly as possible by speaking, by using vocabulary which you have already learned, not just by, trying to use as complicated structures as possible. Just use the language. The main idea of any other languages that you use, that you learn, is to feel the language. It's not about, because of course, for lots of objects or some actions, there may be different ways how you can say this. For example, for the word I did that successfully. You can say I managed to do that, I accomplished that, I succeeded in doing that, I bring that off, I brought that off. I brought it off, I pulled it off. To do something successfully. I've just actually said a couple of sentences with the same meaning. Of course, there are some nuances, context, etc., but usually they almost mean the same. Again, the point, I would say, summarize this video. Don't be afraid of using pretty simple words. Don't be focused on using extremely complicated vocabulary, and third of all, just feel the language. Just speak the language you speak. Other people, they don't care about how complicated your words are. What they care about is how clear you are, how coherent and clear your speech is, and basically the point you're getting at. That's all that matters. Okay guys, so that will do for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe you found this video kind of similar to your experience, and if you did, just don't forget to subscribe to this channel, give me a thumbs up, and also I'm going to look forward to your comments, because as I said, if you have some similar stories, similar experience, just let me know in the comment section down below. See you guys in our next video. Bye.